I think that's fine. I just sometimes we need to
Kick
kind
it.
of kickstart
Yeah.
something.
I am
No,
live.
okay.
Oh,
Everybody
we're
stop talking.
live.
Everybody stop talking.
Everybody stop talking.
Good job. I can hear my neck cracking in this ear. That's disturbing.
Like every time you turn your head.
Yeah, it sounds like popcorn. What the heck? I noticed that. Now I'm not going to be able to unhear
Like tinnitus.
it.
My start the bubble wrap post. That was the responses to that post were so funny.
What
Oh
post are
my
you talking
gosh.
about?
Did you see the yeah, you did because you responded to it. The post on my stories about the bubble wrap in Return of the Jedi.
Oh,
The scene from the planet
yeah,
Hoth where they're in the A-wings
yeah.
and on the strap it's just like popped bubble wrap. I was like, I'm about to, because I started the story off with like, I'm about to change the way you see Star Wars. So if you don't not want to change like me to ruin Star Wars, don't watch it. And then it's the scene where Luke is sitting in the A-wing and they're trying to take down the AT-ATs. And if you look on the straps are just popped bubble wrap. And I can't unsee that now. And the responses I got were just, oh, they were so good.
Keep talking. I'll be right back. Hold on.
Okay. They were fantastic. The Darth Vader. No. Yeah, that was fun. Are you looking it up? I can't hear what you're saying. Are you muted?
Weird. Yeah, I'm looking it up.
Don't do it.
Yeah, all the harnesses. Yeah.
Uh-huh. This is bubble wrap. Somebody was like, that's not bubble wrap. That's like some sort of titanium alloy protection material. The responses were just great. One person was like, gotta have something to do to entertain yourself when you're flying through space. Fair point.
Huh. Interesting.
And then I did the whole, I'm sorry, you're welcome. The end of the stories.
Yeah, there's a Reddit post from 5 years ago.
Yeah,
about it.
About the bubble wrap.
Uh-huh. Last time I watched Empire, I noticed something I can't help but notice every time now. In the cockpits of the snow speeders, on the harnesses that go over the pilot's shoulders, there are strips of bubble wrap. Just straight up bubble wrap on their seatbelts. Lol.
Yeah. Production design.
One guy says, in my head canon, they pop them for emergency oxygen.
That's great.
And some guy says, I'm convinced that a MacGyver type dude is working for the rebels. His story has yet to be told. And then someone says, now this is improvising. A Star Wars story. And someone else says, now this is pod racing.
I'm ready when you guys are.
All right.
You guys set?
Yeah.
Hello there. You're listening to the Makings podcast for makers, families, and geeks. So, gentlemen,
What's up? We have the high ground.
we do have the high ground.
Is this week the week?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It comes out tomorrow. Okay.
Or yesterday, depending upon when you're listening to this.
That's true.
And it feels like we're going to be in a Star Wars season again really quickly with all the new releases that were shown today and talked about at Star Wars Celebration. So, yeah, lots of new Star Wars content to come. If you like Star Wars, that's great news. If you've been a little bit critical of Star Wars over the last couple of years, like I might have been, I don't know. I'm hoping that it kind of continues on as good, but it's a good time to be a geek.
If they screw up Kenobi,
I know that's a tough one to come back from.
it's like a silver platter like handed to them with like so much potential.
If you're gonna screw up something, screw up Andor, because nobody really cares about him
Yeah,
anyways.
I could not care less about that.
Oh, them is fighting words, sir.
I'm okay with that.
Why do you care about the one guy who acts the most devious, like out of character of a rebel? Like no honor, sir.
Why do you want to celebrate the villain?
Yeah.
They're all villains. What are you talking about?
That's only a matter of perspective.
Nah, he's like the least interesting character of that whole squad. Like, give me a
Although that
backstory
trailer
for
was pretty fantastic, though.
K2SO. Give me a backstory for him.
Just him being built in the factory, or what?
Yeah, just his line from being evil to being good. The story, how they rescued him or reprogrammed him.
Yeah, he was missing from the trailer, wasn't he?
He's supposed to be in it, isn't he? The series? I think I heard he was.
Was he? I don't know. There's probably going to be a lot of Star Wars information coming out over the next few days, and so it'd be interesting to see what's coming up.
I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Rogue One, but he was he was his like right arm droid, so I would assume they would show that.
Yeah.
Right hand.
When I
droid.
was up in Colorado, I was over at Tyson's house, and he wanted to show off this big screen projector screen that he built, and so we sat down and watched Rogue One.
Nice.
Still just as good. Still just as good. But yeah, right hand robot.
So, other than geeking out about potential good Star Wars stuff coming out, what have you guys been up to this week?
I treated myself. This could be considered a geek out, but it's something I did this week. I did it today. I took myself to see a movie by myself. I don't know when the last time I did that was. When I didn't travel somewhere, that's seems to be like a common thing when you're traveling. Like, let me just go to a movie because I'm like trying to burn time. But I wanted to see Everything Everywhere All at Once in the theaters before it left because it got good reviews. And I'll tell you what, it has the madness that the Multiverse of Madness wished it could have. Like, it scratched that itch that I wanted Doctor Strange to have, for sure. It was crazy. And really silly and really serious and, like, everything. Like, if there's a multiverse of possibilities for a movie, if it could be serious or comedic or silly or zany, like, it should be all of those things at one time, right? Because that is the definition of a multiverse. And they did that.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Kind of a new way to kind of measure the merit of the movie.
Yep.
If this is back in the day when you were collecting DVDs, would this be a movie that you put on your shelf?
I think I'll still buy it. Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. There are limited ones that I'll still buy if they're good enough. Definitely not kid friendly, unfortunately. So don't. I mean, it's rated R, so it probably goes without saying. But yeah, it was surprising. Like the actors are really good. and it's got the guy that was in Indiana Jones, which I had not followed
Oh
his career.
yeah.
I had not followed his career since then.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, that's the dude. He's like the little kid in
Which guy?
Indiana Jones.
From Indiana Jones.
The
I
little hat.
Oh, yeah,
Little
yeah,
hat.
yeah, him. I know.
Yeah.
He's also from Goonies.
In Goonies, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
I
he
forgot
like
his name. I
disappeared.
just saw it. I came across it recently. Yeah.
He was really good in it. Everybody was really good, and it was like one of those movies that like you're kind of you're kind of confused at first, and then they start dropping all these things that by the end they actually did a good job of like connecting the dots. You definitely had to like pay attention because they weren't spoon feeding you information, like they didn't like insult the audience by like having tons of exposition. They had some exposition because there's some weird crap that goes on, but they kind of gave enough examples of the logic they're laying out. You're like, oh, okay, now I finally get it. And then you kind of connect that to the stuff you didn't get, like in a couple scenes ago that you were like a little bit confused. But it was an interesting way to have an approach for a multiverse kind of story. And I'm really wondering, like, if they saw the script for Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness first, or vice versa, because there's a lot of common stuff. I mean, yeah, obviously multiverse. What you should think there would be like a lot of things you could do, but even there were a lot of like visual gags that were in both movies that maybe they just look back at some of the comic books.
Pizza balls.
No, like the eyeball on the head, that was a thing in this movie. I mean, is that just like a Doctor Strange thing? Is that?
That's also a very mysticism related thing, though.
It is.
The whole third eye reference.
But for it to come out and then like with like a couple weeks of each other, it's very. Well, I hadn't really seen it that many times before. I don't know, but they had a spin on that as well, which was cool. Highly recommended. Maybe not necessarily something to see in the theaters. Like it's, I wanted to see it in the theaters just because I heard it was good. Like that's why you should see it. It wasn't like that over the top with like action, like bombastic, cinematic kind of experience. It was really cool visually, but it wasn't like the first Doctor Strange kind of level of mind-bending visuals. It was more kind of mental stimulation, I guess. But yeah, definitely check it out if you have a chance.
Was it like the other Daniels movies where the last 20 minutes of it, they just take a hard left turn?
I've never seen any of their other movies, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
There's a point where it seems like it did, and then they kind of trolled the audience a little bit. And then you're like, oh, okay, now I'm still on board. Because at first I'm like, no, that's no. And they're like, okay. But, yeah, I recommend it.
That's cool.
Even though it's still another multiverse movie, it still had like a lot of cool novel concepts in it and ideas. It reminded me somewhat of Garden State in some ways too, which was kind of interesting. Some things that they did in Garden State, which I don't want to spoil it. So if anybody watches that movie, let me know if you pick up on it.
I might have to go see that. I mean, not that I want excuses to go to the movie theater or need excuses to go to the movie theater, but that seems like a good one to use an excuse to go to the movie theater.
Yeah. I don't know if like my wife would have liked it because I don't know. I'm not sure if she would have. Because sometimes if they're like a little bit too out there, then she just kind of loses interest.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be that far out there for some people.
A little too art housey, or
maybe some of it seems kind of like some of it seems sort of I guess art housey. I don't really have a good word to describe it. Where it's
does
sort
it
of
require
like artsy fartsy.
Does it require like an even bigger suspension of disbelief type thing? Is that why?
No, it's just some of the concepts or some of the things they're showing are so like silly.
Okay, fair.
That like how like a lot of the chop sake kind of kung fu movies, I mean they're kind of silly with the way that they do like a lot of the movements and hovering and all that sort of, they do a little bit of that in here, and for some people I could see how it pulls out of it, out of the experience, but it's sort of that idea, but like mixed with almost like an artsy fartsy kind of, grander than thou or smarter than you kind of approach. And it seems like that way at first until you start to understand what's happening. And you're like, oh, okay. But if you don't give it that chance, I could see someone kind of disconnecting with it and then not paying attention enough once it starts explaining it, and they kind of lose that point of no return where they're just like, okay, I'm not going to invest any more mental power in this because the first 20 minutes I was lost and now I'm not going to worry about it. But yeah, what have you guys been up to?
Did I talk about Meow Wolf?
Nope.
I didn't at all?
I don't think so.
So when I was in Colorado, we went to this, you can call it an art house, I guess, or an art installation. Or
They have one in Vegas.
They do?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
I've not been yet, but I know about it.
It's this art project experience, whatever terminology you want to use for it. Experiment, yeah. Called Meow Wolf, where it is this huge building that they invite hundreds, thousands of different artists to come in and decorate and do all kinds of stuff to rooms to give them different themes and atmospheres and motifs and all this other kind of stuff. Very art house. And it is very, very cool to experience. It is a sensory overload if you are sensitive to stuff like that. But it was really cool. But again, very art house. Again, I say art housey because a lot of it is that kind of smarter than you type of depictions of
where you feel like someone else gets it and they're like, why don't you get it, dummy? And you're like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or everything's deconstructing the human experience,
right.
Deconstructing capitalism, deconstructing aliens and all this other. There always has to be like subtlety that's shoved in your face when it's come to like.
Or they're not that subtle sometimes.
I know, that's why I said shoved in your face. Independent art house kind of stuff. But seeing trailers from that movie and then you talking about it reminds me of the experience of being in Meow Wolf and having that kind of same reaction to it.
There were only 2 or 3 people in the theater with me, so we didn't really. I was expecting them to laugh at the same things I did, but which they didn't, and there weren't any. Sometimes like the energy of the crowd can also feed into the experience, like make something funnier than it really is, or help like validate your laugh in a weird way, you know. And I didn't really have that, which is okay. But I'm used to going to movies with other people and like kind of feeling their energy or their reactions or enjoying their reaction to something that I enjoyed, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And not having that, it definitely takes a little bit away from it. But no, there were some definitely funny moments. I'm like, oh, are they going to do this thing? Oh, they did that. Oh, that's pretty funny. And it's sort of satisfying.
It is an experience seeing a movie with other people, which I kind of have to talk about because, again, it's like you. It's kind of a geeking out, but it's something that I did in the past week. My wife and I got tickets to the advanced screening for Top Gun, which was, it was so cool. I have not had that much fun in a movie in a while. And it was so good. Oh my gosh, it was so good. But the entire theater, it was in the Warren Theater, which is a really premier movie theater where we are. I don't know if it's nationwide kind of chain like Cinemark or something like that. But it was in their largest theater and every seat was completely sold out. And I honestly cannot remember the last time I went to a movie theater with a bunch of people like that. I was trying to think because I was like, oh, it probably would have been Endgame. Yeah. No, when I went to Endgame, I was the only one in the theater. I didn't see it the night before. I went the afternoon that it came out. I was the only one in the IMAX theater watching it.
I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
Usually I hate the crowds, but that movie, the crowd helped.
Yeah. I think Infinity War may have been the last movie that I saw in the movie theater with like a bunch of other people. Not like 2 or 3 people like scattered,
right,
here and there or whatever, but like a bunch of other people where they react to the movie, they laugh at parts, it was Top Gun. So there was like on it, like a lot of the people in the audience were older military people, which wasn't that surprising because it's Top Gun. But man, they were like through different parts of that movie, which was funny. But it was a really cool experience, like being in a movie theater again with a bunch of people, like laughing at the same stuff that you're laughing at, or laughing at something that you didn't think was funny until they laughed. You're like, oh, okay, I guess I can see why that's funny. And then you laugh too, and it's a different experience. But man, it was cool seeing that movie. I did not expect that movie to be as good as it was, and it was good. It was good. You guys should see it.
I will
in
eventually.
the theater.
I probably won't get to see it till next weekend though.
I don't know if they're going to do it in 3D. I would not recommend this movie in 3D.
I don't like 3D movies anyway.
You would probably vomit.
I don't know the last movie I
So-
saw in 3D.
So fast. Oh my gosh. But it was fantastic. And I've been on this lull of making stuff. Part of it has been, just the introduction into my SketchUp job and the culture and training and getting used to everything and stuff like that. But I've also been really discouraged lately from making stuff. So I just haven't, even though I have an almost completed project, like literally sitting on my workbench in my garage that I walk by every time I go in and out of the door. But I finally got the motivation to start working on that again. So it is almost done. It's going to be done probably tomorrow or the day after that. I'll get it shipped off, and hopefully the video for that should be out. I want to say soon. Again, I'm having a hard time motivating myself to do this, but it'll be out soon, shortly. I'll say shortly. How about you, Sean?
I started filming my next video, which is going to be redoing a rocking chair that I've talked about for probably most of this point. But I need a woodworking project, something non-laser related, to kind of mix things up a little bit. I just filmed the intro though, and I'll probably get to starting to refinish the rocking chair this weekend, I hope. The last couple of weeks, I feel like I've just been intentionally kind of sticking my head in the sand, trying to get through this end of the year time with work being crazy and just so many weird things happening. And then of course, world news that's not fun right now. I'm just trying to get through the next week till graduation, and then hopefully take like a collective sigh and then get back to the things that I really want to do. That's what I've been up to. So we don't have a really solid topic for tonight. We have kind of a jumping off point. So we'll just kind of see where the conversation takes us.
Let's do it.
Yep. So before we started recording, we were talking, or I was starting to pose some of the questions about, as you know, being a husband and parent now, how things are different now than what it was before. Do we have any hobbies that we don't really engage with much because of our current positions as, husbands and parents? And that's kind of our jumping off point, I guess.
So I don't know if this is like a jumping off point for you guys, but when we started talking about this in the pre-show, one of the things that I have done in the past week, I guess this could have been, something that I've been up to, but I signed up for Audible, which by this point in my life, I think I've heard maybe 10,000 commercials for Audible. They used to be everywhere. I know of the service. I just never partook of that because I always read books. I am a big book lover. I used to work for Barnes & Noble when my wife and I first got married. I tell this story all the time. If I told it, I'm sorry. But when my wife and I first got married, we were getting our place ready to move in together, and I packed up all of my stuff, and I had 10 boxes of things to my name, and 7 of those boxes were just books. Like that is how many books I had compared to, normal non-book stuff when we first got married. So books have always been like a huge part of my life and my habits. And like, I always used to read just constantly, like 1 or 2 books a week, for years upon years upon years until I had kids. And when we were talking about it in the pre-show, I realized it's like, I don't read books like I used to. I mean, books for me. Like, I still read to my kids every night before bed to try and, and lull them to sleep. But like actually picking up a book for me and reading it as a form of entertainment or just meditation or, you know, whatever you want to call it, I have not done that in the longest time. And especially for me and Ramona, it's always been kind of a pivotal part of our relationship. Because when we first started dating, we were driving in the car together, and I had the Phantom toll booth in my bag, and I pulled it out and I started reading to her. Just no reason. I just started reading to her while we were in the car because I wanted something to do. And so ever since that moment, we have always read books to each other. And part of our yearly tradition as a family is that on Thanksgiving, we go to the bookstore and each of us gets a book to try and read before Christmas. And but it's just a habit that because kids are kids and they're demanding and they take a lot of time that we've fallen out of. And so to kind of mitigate that problem, I signed up for Audible. And so now we're listening to books together instead of reading books together. And it's just made me realize like how out of that habit I have gotten since having kids. So there's my diving board. If you guys want to jump off of it, you're welcome to. But that's kind of the big thing for me that I thought of when we were talking about, hey, how is your life different now than, you know, before you had kids?
I think we were married for like how long were we married? 8. We were married 9 years, 8 or 9 years before we had kids, and I'm having trouble thinking of stuff that we did that's so unique. Back then, I definitely played more video games then, but that's not really a consequence of having kids necessarily. For me, it was more of a side effect of working in the game industry. I didn't really have the desire
that was
anymore.
every job.
Yeah, it definitely squashed that for a while. And now that Grant is into games, I'm having to stop myself for having an excuse to not play a game. If that makes sense? Because like now, like when nowadays, like if I feel like I want to play a game, I'll always like talk myself. Not always. Kerbal Space Program notwithstanding, but all the other games, for the most part, I'll usually talk myself out of it mentally before I, start and do something else more productive. Even though playing great games is a great escape, and I would have an argument with myself 10 years ago if I had caught myself saying that shit. But I have to basically tell myself it's all right, now to play games with Grant because he wants to play them, and I, as a kid, I always wanted somebody that is not a kid to play games with. Like I wanted my grandfather or like uncles or something to like be as interested in the games that I was, and like kind of have that as a sounding board and like share in that experience and stuff. And so I have to not be as much of an adult when he's asking to do that and actually just sit down and have fun. I thought I would do that a lot more than I have been, and it's something I'm trying to do more of. But as far as other activities, I haven't geocached as much as I used to. I used to geocache a lot. Yeah. Not because of kids. It made it harder with a stroller. You can't really push a stroller and stuff through the woods. And I figured I would get them into it because it's like, by now it's like a scavenger hunt, with the kids, go out in the woods. But it's something I sort of fell out of that I think maybe they'd be interested in getting back into. I don't know. I don't know. That's what I got so far. Hopefully something else will come to me.
The last 2 weeks have been really interesting. Both of my kids had multi-day trips with school that they took that really kind of left the house feeling like an empty nest, almost like a preview of what it would be like when they leave for college, which in some ways really isn't that long from now. My son starts 8th grade next year, and my daughter starts 7th grade. And, in a very short period of time, they'll both be through high school. So my wife and I were kind of getting to experience a little bit what things would be like without them around. And after being married for 15 years, the feeling in the house is not the same as it was before kids. So like the entire dynamic has changed. It's not like things will go back. Um, but there are things that I look forward to getting back to, hopefully, that I used to do. One of which is just kind of like going off by myself. I used to go hiking by myself, go exploring by myself, and just have a little bit more time uh, with my own thoughts, which I feel like I don't really get that often anymore. I would probably classify myself, at least I did one time, a little bit being a little bit more introverted, but I miss some of that internal dialogue that I used to have. And with that, and a lot of that helped with a lot of the writing that I used to do. And that's what I miss. And that's what I want to get back to. I still have a bucket list item of finishing or writing a book someday. I don't know if it'll be a fictional story, although I have a couple of those ready to go, or if it'll be something a little bit more nonfiction based. But I would love to get back to that at some point. So I missed that.
That is funny that you brought that up, because I got an iPad for work so that I could use SketchUp on the iPad and play around with it and make models and stuff like that. But part of it is Apple has, what is it called? Notes? Pages. That's what it's called. If you're not familiar with Apple products, it's like their Notepad, I guess.
It's
I'm
their
still
word
learning.
processor.
Yeah, like word processor, something like that. Anyways, I logged into the iPad and I opened Pages, just kind of like, oh, what is this program? Because it's been a long time since I've used any kind of Apple product, and I don't know the ecosystem, and so I'm still trying to learn. And I opened up Pages, and there was one in there. I was like, what in the heck is this? And I opened it, and it was from years and years and years ago, when I must have owned some kind of like Macintosh project, and it was a book that I started writing years and years and years ago. And it was so trippy sitting there on my iPad reading through this book collection of stories that I had started years ago and honestly had completely forgotten about. And so the other night, you're talking about writing a book. The other night, I'm like, I wonder if I could do this again. And so I was sitting in my closet because, I didn't want to like wake anybody up because it was bedtime, and just sitting there tapping out on my little iPad, trying to write again. And it was really cool. It's something I haven't done in a long time. I don't know if I'm ready to like write a book. But it was a journey. It was a trip to get back and to see stuff that I had written in the past and realize it's like, oh, this used to be an ambition of mine to write a book and sit down and try that experience again. It was really fun. I highly recommend it, Sean.
I have maybe 5 different things started, and yeah, I don't know which direction I'll go.
Yeah. Write a book. What kind of book would you write? I'm curious.
Well, that's why I said it's like I have a couple of different things started. I had submitted a book proposal at one time, and it was supposed to be like a social commentary, funny type thing, but it was actually really, really bad. I was trying to channel other people more than actually develop my own voice. So it was really bad. I don't know. I have a fictional story that I would like to see through. I'll go, just for fun. And then I have something a little bit more personal that I started writing at some point, which I don't know. I don't really even care about publishing type thing. It's just something that I want for completion.
I am curious. Who were you channeling? Like who are your muses?
George Carlin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
It would be quite a bit different now, but back then, because this is 17, 18 years ago at this point that I did this. So yeah, things have changed quite a bit since then.
The social commentary isn't as punchy as it was 18 years ago.
Oh, it was just written horribly then. And just, some ideas might have been mildly amusing, but they were poorly written and they weren't original, and they essentially weren't mine in a lot of ways. A lot more experience, and especially in terms of writing in English, because at that time I hadn't even finished my degree. Yeah.
Have you ever considered writing like a making type book?
I almost have no interest. I don't think I'm the right person to do it. I mean, not based on my stuff. I mean, there's so many people that I think are probably more, or that are better suited to write something like that. I mean, I could write the words, but I don't think it would be my experience or my expertise because I don't have any.
What about you, Wes? Have you ever thought about writing like a maker type book?
No, no. Sorry, that conversation was not very interesting. No, I typically I don't really read for leisure. At least like I don't read fiction. Nonfiction, I'll read like Make Magazine or something like that, but that probably doesn't really count. Nothing of any sort of story for leisure. I just don't. I've never really been into that. Uh, since I was forced to do it in school, it kind of put a sour taste in my mouth for it, and I've tried to pick it up here and there.
It's a very, very common
Yeah,
response. Yeah.
I just
My,
don't.
my master's degree was actually based on that very thing.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Hmm.
My thesis, it talks about that very, very problem.
Um, so like I have the last book that I purchased or that I received as a gift was Adam Savage's book, and I started reading it. And then I got the audiobook, and I think I listened to maybe 3/4 of it, and I still haven't finished it. It's just I don't really have a lot of the opportunities because I don't travel much, and I don't have like a commute to work or anything like that. So I don't really have an opportunity that I've got into a habit of, at least, to listen to an audiobook, and I can't really listen to them when I'm doing certain things in the shop because it's too distracting.
Mm-hmm.
Versus music, I can have the music, and if it's something that I'm familiar with, it sort of takes like a subliminal kind of level of attention that I have to pay to it. Versus like a podcast or a audiobook, I wouldn't be able to stay focused on anything else except maybe sanding. But I don't really do much of that either. So, as far as a writing, the most I've written in a long time has been for Peter Brown, and before that, couldn't even tell you the last time I like wrote. I don't really consider myself a writer, and I'm so surprised that he's paying me to write things for his channel.
I would disagree with you. I think you're
Yeah.
selling yourself short based on what you're writing for Peter Brown.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's a matter of context and what you're writing.
Hmm.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Then you're a writer.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're a writer.
And you're getting paid for it, so you're a professional writer, sir.
Ooh. Yeah, I like this. I like this. I like how you're thinking. Yep.
David asked, "What about a maker comic?"
I'm struggling with that right now. I teach animation, so it's really tough. It's really weird saying this, but I don't. There's a couple things I enjoy doing, but I actually don't enjoy that type of art. Doing that type of art typically. I like illustration. I like graphic design. I don't know. It doesn't speak to me the same way, even though I'm supposed to know how to do it and teach it. So I'll inspire others to do it, but I have other plans.
You could write the story and then have them draw it.
I'm okay with that. I've written things that had I finished them, things would be quite different because I had people waiting on certain things. But yeah, who knows? Maybe in the future. One of my many retirement projects that I'll have planned. But really quick though, in terms of reading, I love reading. I'm surrounded by books, all the time. But in the last, I don't know, 5 to 8 years, it feels like reading is such a luxury that I can't relax enough to sit down and do it. During the pandemic, I actually forced myself to go outside and read every day, just to get out in front of the computer. And I actually read and finished a book, one that I've been wanting to read for a very long time. And then I got halfway through the next one, and then I haven't read in a year and a half.
What was the book?
It was part of the Thrawn trilogy from Timothy Zahn, because I'd never read it. So I read through the first book, half of the second, and now my son is reading them. He's beating me.
He's reading it without you.
Yeah, which is fine. He has to do it for school anyways.
Yeah, that's one thing that I don't know if I ever fully contemplated before becoming a parent, is that when when you're married, this is the case obviously, but especially when you become a parent, like your time is not your own anymore.
Way to depress
It's
us.
what's that?
Way to depress us.
I'm not trying to depress, but it
I know.
was just going up to Colorado for this work trip, and then having just gotten done with Workbench Con a couple months before, I realized that it's like I don't go anywhere on vacation for the sake of vacation. Like it's always like for work or for work, quote unquote work, or for work, anything like that. It's like I can't remember the last time we just went on a vacation just to have a vacation. And then my wife and I were talking. It's like, when was the last time we went on vacation, just us, without the kids? Just because. Well, it's like that's not work related.
Oh, that's fair.
Whether it's in air quotes or not. Just because it's always so much extra work to do those things with kids than before we had kids. If we wanted to go on a vacation, it was just a matter of planning. All you needed to do was plan, and you pack up your bag and you walk out the door and you go on vacation. But when you have kids, there's like you got to figure out who they're going to be with and like how to contact them, and like there's all this extra stuff that has to happen before you can even walk in the door. And even when you walk out the door, this is my family. I don't know if it's every family. We will drive for 5 minutes and then we'll turn around and come right back because something was forgotten or the garage door was open, or like there's always something. And it's funny how much time, again, it's like is not your own anymore. You talk about reading for leisure and like forcing yourself to do that, and getting the experience of what it's going to be like being empty nesters. And it's like, for me right now, having 3 little kids, just having time to myself, I don't know what to do with myself, because I'm like, I'm supposed to be taking care of somebody right now. Like what is happening? Like something is wrong. Like I'm just sitting there in a hotel room by myself being like, okay, who's going to cry? What's going to, like, it's a weird feeling. It really is a weird feeling, being so used to like having your time not be your own.
You feel like you're going to get in trouble at any moment for like goofing off or something. Yeah.
Turn the TV on to watch TV. Who does that? I haven't done that in a long like.
And you look around like, what do you guys want to watch? I'm like, oh, I got to decide that too. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I have this fantasy that when the kids are gone meaning like out of the house for college or whatever it is, that on a Friday afternoon, we decide that we want to go somewhere, we hop in the car and drive, or just randomly buy a plane ticket and fly somewhere for the weekend. That's kind of like a fantasy of ours.
Yeah.
That's not where the conversation was going to go, but I mean, I'm with you. That sounds cool.
You do you. Dream big. No, but it's funny. It's true. Because it's different. Life is different. It's not bad. I'm not trying to say that it's like bad in any ways. But it is different. Something else. Doing activities together. Just like you said, like going on a trip, going on dates. My wife and I used to date a lot when we first got married, and then we had kids. And so now it's like you have to make the time to go on dates. I mean, we do. I don't know. Like, is it the same for you guys? Do you date your wives? I'm curious.
I don't quite put it like that, but the essence of what you're talking about, yes.
Yeah. More than just dinner and a movie, or is there like a certain routine that you have?
What more are you talking about that you talk about on a family podcast?
I'm not trying to like delve into that, but it's like, are your dates different now having kids than like when you were first married before you had kids?
There are rare times when my wife and I will block out several hours instead of just like dinner or maybe just a movie, just to be with each other and talk, because that's what we used to do anyways. When we were dating, we would drive around for hours and just talk, like endless conversation. And that is probably one of the things that we don't do as often anymore. And that's kind of like what our relationship was built on. So when we're able to return to that a little bit, we try to. It's one of the things we enjoy the most in terms of each other's company and conversation.
What about you, Wes?
I don't know. We had some of my wife's family live locally. We had more of an opportunity to go on like dates just ourselves, but it's not impossible for us to schedule it, but it's a lot more challenging now. Takes more effort, and yeah. Besides like dinner and a movie, there was like an improv place that's in town that's actually pretty funny in Raleigh that we would go to like dinner and go see a show there. But we haven't really done that since her family hasn't been in town like to babysit or whatever. So I don't know. We don't really have many opportunities to do that as much. But we do try to go to like lunch pretty often together. That's sort of our only kind of date time, I guess you could say. Like since she's been working from home, we try to carve out Fridays to go eat lunch together, but it was not as often and as it's not as often as we might like, I guess, with all the things going on and trying to get stuff done around the house. We have like carpenters and contractors and electricians and all kinds of people flowing through in the last couple months, so it seems like that's like an opportune time to like get gobbled up by some other thing midday on a weekday. So we just gotta make the effort again, for sure.
In a small way, I'll say that as the kids are approaching that teenage age, things are getting a lot easier. The kids' schedules are fairly busy with school-related activities and after-school activities, but they've been pretty manageable so far. I look forward to most of their activities being attached to school, so they don't really have to go anywhere extra for that stuff. So there is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, hopefully coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah, my son Grant had a swim practice and then a baseball game right after each other a couple days ago, and so that was a logistical, interesting thing to work out. And he was like completely exhausted by the end of that. In terms of like kids' schedules and all that sort of stuff. So we're just now getting into having more of that, because before it was mostly Samantha that my daughter doing things, and then COVID hit right when Grant was in kindergarten for his like second half of kindergarten. So he's never really had for the longest time like a normal kind of schedule or opportunity to do much. So he's sort of branching out and trying to explore different options and things he can do. And just when we think, oh, you want to do baseball again next year? He's like, no, I think I want to try tennis next. He's just like sampling all the things that he never really had a chance to, which is kind of cool. And we might dabble in scouting, because I did that a lot as a kid, and I enjoyed it, even though I never got to finish as I had hoped. There are a lot of things that I learned from that I could say influenced my life, and different ways I think about things and approach things. And even if you don't finish the curriculum, you can still get a lot of good stuff out of it. Assuming
as an adult,
assuming it's going to exist when I
yeah,
get around to it.
and as an adult, if it's still around, you can be eligible for Order to the Arrow. So there is something you can still achieve as an adult.
I mean, I used to just like starting fires when I was a kid. So let's be honest, that's the only reason I was in Boy Scouts. Can I start this fire? Can I do that? Yeah, I was a little.
That is the appeal.
I was a little
for lot of people.
pyromaniac. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know.
Oh,
I never got that far in Scouts for us to even be outdoors.
Oh, geez.
Everything was inside for whatever reason. I don't know.
Before we had kids, my wife and I would go out a lot, just outdoors, like parks, walk, hiking, rock climbing. We used to rock climb a lot back in the day, which we've taken the kids rock climbing every now and then, maybe once a year. We'll take them rock climbing. That was something that fell off real quick when my wife first got pregnant. That I don't think we've done, just her and I together, since before we had Evelyn. Yeah, it's been a while since we've done that. Not to say we couldn't. Like, we still could, I think. Maybe. I'm about 40 pounds heavier than I think I was then, but I could still do it, I think.
That's what ropes are for.
That's what the ropes are for?
Yeah.
No, it's kind of, this is totally, I mean, maybe it's off topic, but I don't know. But one of the last times that her and I went rock climbing together was down in Dallas. And down in Dallas, there's this place where they took these old grain silos and they built a rock course on the inside of the silos. So super cool. Like it's a super cool experience to like walk inside of a grain silo and have the entire, like all the way up just be rock climbing courses. And there was one that I did that my wife was belaying me. So she was down, like pulling the rope as I was climbing up and, making sure that the slack was taut and all this other kind of stuff. But on this particular one, my wife forgot to anchor down. And so I was near the top of the silo when all of a sudden I lost my grip and I fell. Well, I am about twice the size of my wife. And so when I fell, she zipped straight up. And I was like, we are going to die. And right in the middle of the silo, we smack and we hit and we kind of balance each other out because I grab onto the wall and I had to start climbing back up so that she could, like, the slack could, like, take her back down to the, oh my gosh. That may have been the last time that her and I rock climbed together. I may have had a little bit of a trust issue.
You just reminded me that was the last thing that was the thing that we did a lot before kids. It was a little more so like before we got married, but we used to ski a lot, and as much as you could in Virginia. I mean, it's all fake snow, so it's not like every weekend or anything. But we skied often enough to enjoy it and kind of feel confident enough to not die every 5 feet or whatever. And then one outing, we just had like the worst time. I don't know. We just were super accident prone, and like I think I hurt my thumb. And like if you go off the course in Virginia, you into like the non-snow generated areas, you're gonna have a bad time. Like it's not like in Wyoming or Montana where you can go anywhere and there's snow everywhere, and there's not really a way to get off of the snow.
They didn't have that back powder.
Yeah, there was no powder. It was just like rocks and crap, and you're just like, okay. And I think that we had such a bad experience and it just kind of compounded and just got worse and worse and worse, and we sort of just wrote it off and we never went back to it until we went to Wyoming like a couple years ago with the kids, and it was their first time, and so that was cool. But yeah, that was something that you reminded me of a similar, like, oh, I guess we're done with this now kind of activity. We went canoeing, her and I, one time, or kayaking, canoeing, and I had like an expensive GPS unit. Oh, it's all coming full circle. I'm remembering now that I would use geocaching. It was like a standalone Garmin before they were as reliable with apps and stuff as they are now on phones. And we were going to do a couple of geocaches along this like river in Raleigh. And I forget what position she was on the canoe, but it was such that we blamed each other for like us veering into like a riverbank and underneath a tree that like where its branches hung over the water. and it was like slow motion. And I'm pretty sure she was steering because I was like, "You have to turn." She's like, "No, you have to pedal." We're like yelling at each other for doing the wrong thing, and it didn't matter because I would revert. I would do the other thing when she did the opposite, and it was like still the wrong thing because we weren't synchronized, and we just went right into this like tree where the branches sort of got closer and closer. And I'm like, "Oh great, I can see spiders. There's spiders on this tree. It's a spider condominium over the water." And it was like I just got chills thinking about it. And like I'm like leaning back and she's leaning like we're like almost flip. We actually did capsize the canoe, trying to dodge these like they were probably harmless, but they looked ginormous. Like what are the spiders with like the yellow and black stripes that are like how the wheat orb weaving spider kind of crap.
I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah,
Saw them
we're
in
like,
Hawaii.
nope. They're like the nope spiders. And we just capsized. And somehow, like, I had the GPS unit lashed to one of, like, the cross members of the canoe just so that it wouldn't fall and, like, get slammed around, like, along our feet and stuff in the canoe. And apparently we discovered in this accident, like, the design weakness of the Garmin. Like, we had this little lanyard that it was attached to. It goes through the smallest, tiniest piece of plastic on the back of the Garmin, and it totally detached and broke. And I think they're supposed to float, but we never found it. And so that was like the last time that I had a standalone GPS unit. And I think there was like such a long time between that moment and smartphones being reliable that I just kind of fell out of the interest of geocaching. You just reminded me of that. So yeah, we never went canoeing again until we went back to Wyoming. So that was like the first and last time we did that. So there's several activities that ended in disaster for various reasons. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Donna. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry. You're welcome.
Jeez.
I guess Sean doesn't have any of those experiences, huh?
I just don't want to get in trouble.
He does.
To be honest, I can't remember anything. There
You're
might be some
unconscious,
things.
huh?
Well, there's some things that are too personal to talk about, and not really for the podcast. Yeah, nothing comes to mind. I'll probably think of 5 things once we stop recording.
Probably.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Nothing in Vegas. I guess it has to stay in Vegas, I suppose.
Yeah, there's stuff in Vegas. It's for
Yeah.
a different podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, is it about that time where we talk about what we're geeking out about?
I think
Yes.
so.
I think Sean and I probably have the same thing. I think. One of the same things.
Are you gonna bring up Rescue Rangers?
You just did.
Then that's yours. That's not mine.
Okay, so you guys have watched it.
Yes.
Yep.
We kind of talked about that.
Oh, crap. We got to talk about that
I
next week.
didn't want to have another
Yeah, a media
centric for
media
3 days in a row.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, all right, that makes sense.
All right, well, 3, 2, 1. You just say if you liked it, hated it. So you can say hated it, liked it, or loved it.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Loved it.
Liked it.
Okay. All right, that's enough of that. I thought it was a great love letter to all things animation. I really enjoyed all the
they
things
really
that
should
they
have
did.
had the subtitle of Roger Rabbit too.
Well,
I
sure.
mean, it's
Mhm.
okay. I mean, it's not Roger Rabbit 2, but
It's the same
it
premise.
is very
yeah.
much a spiritual successor to
Yeah.
that idea, especially because of the
The episode
being
within an
so
episode.
cross
kind of
IP. I was not expecting
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, I'm still shocked and surprised that they were able to pull that off.
Like what? Exactly. Which parts? I'm curious.
Everything. There's Pokemon characters, there's Transformers, there was Warner Brothers characters, DC.
Some of them were vague enough to like skirt by.
But they were.
Um,
But it was.
Yeah, I don't know. They did some of them. I agree with you. I wasn't sure how they were able to convince the powers that be to be able to pull off some of the stuff they were doing.
Especially at this point in time with the way IP's
Yeah,
protected.
like I want to see the boardroom conversation where they're like, "Hey, we want to use the ugly Sonic as like a major character to like
Yep.
lambast and make fun of the fact that that movie got crapped on by like every, nostalgic loving person on
Yeah.
the internet." I was very surprised by that. And there were
The
several
uncanny
moments.
valley scene.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Seth Rogen was the voice.
I'm surprised, honestly, they were able to get DreamWorks to agree to some of the stuff because for such a long time,
Oh
DreamWorks and
yeah.
Disney were like at odds with each other.
Like
Yep.
all the Seth Rogen characters,
Yeah.
all the ones that he's
hmm
voiced, they were.
Yeah. And I mean,
When
they
is
made
he a warthog?
the Lion King movie,
Lion King.
Oh, I didn't watch
the
that.
live
Maybe
action one. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Well, not live action, but the
live.
Yeah, but yeah, I
pho-
get
the
what
photo
you're
the
saying.
For
photo
lack,
reel.
I can't believe I just said that because I was like harping on people for saying that.
Yeah.
The live action esque, let's just say. Um, yeah, I was surprised. Like they did a gag, for Shrek to get back. Spoiler alert: if you guys haven't seen this movie, we're gonna talk a little bit about it. Like they did like a Shrek gag that I thought was pretty funny. But I mean, those studios used to be like at odds with each other. Like, is Katzenberger not really in charge of DreamWorks anymore? He was like the main
Yeah,
guy
I don't
spearheading the
know.
rivalry. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really well done. They could have done a lot worse, for sure. I expected a lot worse. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. And like I said, it was to me, it was like a love letter to all these different styles of animation. A lot of them that you don't see anymore. A lot of them I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot they look like that, or they did that sort of thing, or what have you. And they even touched on like a lot of other Disney properties that were really cool and Disney animation things. And yeah,
I was
good.
I was really surprised by their storyline of having the characters captured and turned into like kind of like
Like,
Chinese knockoff.
yeah,
I love how brutal Disney has allowed themselves to be with their own property.
yeah. The Peter Pan
It's
thing,
good.
I wouldn't have been able to believe that they would be able to have a character like crapped on that much.
I mean, see what
That
they
much.
they did to Flounder's hilarious.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those movies that you probably have to watch like 3 or 4 times to pick up all the stuff that they just cram in that movie.
I was watching it with my family and we rewound it several times and paused because somebody would point something out. They saw like, no, what? So like, pause there. Oh, okay. Now keep going and play it again.
I found myself laughing at so many things that I would like. I think my kids and my wife were getting a little bit annoyed because it felt like I was in on so many like inside jokes they didn't get. And I'm like, they didn't get the ugly Sonic thing, and they, several other references that they're like, why is this funny? Or they can tell I see like another layer, and it doesn't make it any funnier to them for me to explain it.
Well,
But-
if you have to explain the joke, it's not
Right.
funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Definitely recommend that one for sure.
Have you, Donovan? What are you geeking out about?
So I got I got Apple Plus too. I signed up for so many services apparently,
Wow.
but I got Apple Plus as part of with my iPad, and so I've been watching. I am always like years behind whatever the popular thing is at the time, and so I'm like catching up on old stuff. I've been watching Ted Lasso, and oh my gosh,
It's fun.
it is so good. The writing is just so good. And I don't know if it's British humor has a different cadence to it that just makes it funnier than it would be if it wasn't British humor. But it is, I'm only like a few episodes into it. It is so good.
It's much better than I thought it was going to be.
It makes me want to cry and be happy at the same time.
And it is so good-hearted.
Yeah,
It is so good-hearted.
it is. Have you seen it, Wes?
No, I'm aware of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, and I remember like years ago when it first came out, people say, "Oh, it's so good! You got to watch it. It's so good." And I'll watch it, several years in the future when it's not popular anymore. But yeah, I've been geeking out about that because it makes me happy. Not a lot of stuff I watch can say that, but that show makes me happy. And again, it makes me want to cry at the same time because oh my gosh, they hit the emotional moments like hard. It's not like subtle conjecture or anything like that. No, they just smack you right across the face with it and linger, and you're just like, oh.
And I think it maintains it pretty well throughout the entire series so far.
Really? Oh, so is
do.
it still going?
I think there's going to be another season.
Oh, okay.
I
Cool.
think.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been geeking out about. A several-year-old television show that I'm just now watching for the first time.
Shoot, hold on.
And with that,
While he's cleaning up his disaster of a desk that collapsed on him, I do want to mention that I am excited for Stranger Things season 4. They released the first 8 minutes of that season.
yes, they did.
Are you caught up on Stranger Things now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I am
I
so
didn't know
excited
that.
for that too. I forgot until you said that, but yes.
See, for those that are not aware, when he visited here, we watched the first season. He had never seen the first season of Stranger Things. We watched it together on my new sound system, and it was awesome. It was great to see it. It was the second time I saw the whole thing, and it was great to see Donovan's reaction. So we haven't had any conversation since then. I thought you had not seen any of the other ones, but
No, the sound design.
mhm.
The sound design on that show is just so good.
Yeah.
The first 8 minutes of season 4, there's no dialogue or anything for like 7 minutes,
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just so good.
It reminded me a
my
lot
gosh.
of Lost, how they did a lot of cool mythos building and world building. And when they deviated from that, I was less interested. But when they start delving into the canon and stuff and explaining way things were, that you're start unraveling some of the mysteries, I'm down with that. So
Yeah. I forgot about that. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love that show. And I don't know if you guys saw Kingdom. Sean, did you see that Kingdom is coming out with an 80s version of their game?
So you you posted that, and I went and looked at the trailer. I'm like, oh my god, take my money now.
I know, right?
Yes.
So good.
Yeah.
So
But that's
if you
actually
don't know
not
what
what
I'm
I'm
talking
geeking out
about.
about.
Yeah. Kingdom Two Crowns is a fantastic. Both Sean and I have geeked out about it on the show before, because it's a great game. It really is a great game, and they're coming out with the 80s nostalgic version of Kingdom, and oh my gosh, I can't wait. There's so much good stuff coming out this summer.
So I am geeking out about Star Wars Celebration because I am going to be there on Sunday.
Ooh.
Yep. Now, I've never been before, and my son and I are going to be going with some friends of ours and just seeing what it's all about. I'm not dressing up. I'm not bringing any props, but I am bringing money because I have a feeling that there's stuff that I'm going to want to buy, and I'll have to explain it to my wife later about why I need it and how I'm going to make it, and how I'm going to make up that financial deficit.
how far is
They
that
gave
for
it to
you?
me.
30 minutes.
Oh wow.
Maybe next year I'll come out there.
Yeah. With where I live in Southern California, everything is roughly about 30 minutes away. Beach, LA, mountains. Yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot here right now. So. Your house is in a good spot.
Yeah, the Patreon members for help.
Our patron members, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being patrons. I wasn't sure about that segue. That segue
I
drove
tried.
off. You
I
drove that
tried.
segue off a cliff.
I did.
That's a deep cut. That's a deep segue. Cut. I want to thank our patrons there at patreon.com/makinggeeks for helping us keep the lights on at the show and helping us with their financial contributions every time we release an episode. They enable us to say weird stuff about segues and segues of segues, and we appreciate each and every one of them, especially our top patrons, Clinton, Square Splinter, and Jordan. You guys rock.
Jordan, who's in our chat right now, by the way. Hey.
Say what?
And speaking of the chat, we do this thing every Thursday night, which you should join us for. But if you're not here to be with us live and you want to talk to us individually about anything that we talk about, our views, opinions, likes, dislikes, thoughts on Chip and Dale's Rescue Rangers, come and share it with us. If you want to talk to Wes, you can find him at Geeksmithing. If you want to talk to Sean, you can find him at Geek Builders. If you want to talk to me, Donovan, you can find me at Once Upon a Workbench.
And you can also find more info about the show on our website, makinggeeks.com. And on the contact page, you can send us any questions or ideas, topics for the show. And on the homepage of the site, you can listen to all of our past episodes right there in your favorite browser of choice. And don't forget the shop, where we have some Making Geeks themed merchandise for you to check out. Want to thank everybody for hanging out in the live chat with us. It's always a little bit more fun seeing the string of comments and questions that come up during the show. And if you'd like to be part of that great group, we record every Thursday evening, 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern, and 8:30 Central. I think I got it that time, I'm hoping. Okay, just waiting for the thumbs up. And we'd like to see you on there. And you can find new episodes of the podcast every Saturday morning on your favorite podcast player of choice. So from all of us to all of you, may the force be with you.
Always.
And forever.
Amen.
Go forth and prosper.
Nailed it. Yeah.
Nailed it.